Hi everyone, I'm Gary Null. Nice to have you with us today. I'm continuing with a series that I began back almost 45 years ago. I call it Mastering Life, where each discussion, most of it extemporaneous, is like putting one more piece of the puzzle to life together. After all, how can you be happy and not also be healthy? Because a happy person would want to be healthy, right? But what if you're sad? What if you're depressed? What if you're anxious? What if you're going through crisis in life? You don't know how long this crisis is going to last. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. You fear loss of something, loss of a job, loss of a relationship, loss of your health. You don't know what to put in its place to stop it, to turn it around, to make things once again manageable and under your control. So today our discussion is about finding happiness in an unhappy world. That doesn't mean everyone's unhappy, but it means too many of us are. And so why we're looking in all the wrong places and expecting a good outcome. I said this about 6 months ago, and I've been building on it to help people. Good people, and I believe most people are good people, will frequently do the wrong thing, maybe because of conditioning, of propaganda, honoring their family or religion or their body politic, but they're determined to do something. What is almost never done is ask, I'm going to go to neutral, and I'm going to look ahead and see what is the likely outcome if I keep doing the same thing. There was a fellow who did a documentary years ago called Supersize Me. And he just went on a normal fast food diet, but he measured all of his biochemistry, and it was a disaster. It would have killed him. And that's exactly what we're not paying attention to. What is the likely outcome if I don't understand the consequences of what I'm doing? At some point, we have just to stop. But can we? We become so addicted to repetitive behavior, over responsibilities, working too hard, thinking if something else works because I didn't work hard enough at it. If I work hard enough at it, Gary, it'll be better. Not true, because that brought me into something I came up with almost 20 years ago. For everything in life to work, I mean really work. I don't care if it's your relationship, your education, your career, your parenting, your friendship. You have to have 5 things working in perfect harmony, just like a symphony. Some of the greatest musicians graduated from Juilliard. And right there at Lincoln Center, where Juilliard is, you have the New York Ballet, you have the New York Symphony, you have the theater, Belmont Theater. Well, imagine going to a symphony with no conductor. They're all fantastic musicians. How would they work if they weren't in harmony? And yet the one person not playing an instrument that night is the conductor. But he knows exactly how everything should sound, the rhythm of it, the cadence, the tone, the intonations, all of that he understands. The person playing the instrument is mastering how they sound. Are they in step? Are they right timing? And you, the public, are sitting back thinking, wow, this is just terrific. I have enormous respect for everyone here. It took a lot of discipline, a lot of time to master this. Yes, it did. Why can't we also appreciate what it takes to master our lives? And many of you have mastered so many things in life that you've probably taken for granted. Mastering your friendship. You got your friends back. You accept them no matter what their flaws because they're your friend. You're not there to preach. You're not there to save them. You're there to appreciate the best they can be, which is what a friendship is. A friendship is 3 entities, as a relationship should be. The best of yourself, the best of that person, sharing that as a common element between you, and you harmonize that. But what if he's Catholic and you're an atheist? Well, then you don't share your views on religion. You're going to clash. You're going to clash, and an unnecessary, contentious outcome could be that what you did share, all this other great stuff, is gone because you wouldn't abide by his or her freedom to be who they are and yours to be you. So you got to look and see how much can we share in common. So here's the 5 principles of harmony of life. You got to have the right idea. And that means you got to find your own idea, not be the architect of someone else's schemes and patterns of living. That means you frequently have to break part or whole from the things you were taught were real, because 95% of everything we know in life comes from someone telling us that. A teacher, a preacher, a rabbi, an imam, a friend, an aunt, an uncle. And we cannot differentiate at a young age what is real and what is not real. We have to trust it all. We're absorbing it all, the good and the bad. So we've got to come to grips with, take some time, take a little respite from your activities and responsibilities, and then ask, what's working in my life, what's not? How many responsibilities do I have that everyone takes for granted and they could have done it themselves? That's taking my time away from me. Do I have any time left for me? We're being overly responsible more often than not. People overwork, they overcommit. So you got to have the right idea. Then you have to be in the right place at the right time. You have to have the right support system. And most importantly, you have to be the right person. Open, flexible, willing to change, willing to give something back that no longer is of use, even if at one time it was. You don't keep trying on a pair of shoes that you wore when you were 4 years old and now you're 20. Won't fit. We shouldn't contort ourselves into something that no longer fits. Without blame or shame, we should be able to say, that was important then, I'm going to create something to take its place now. So you surrender one energy, with it goes everything that had to do with your life, and you bring in something that's more relevant and important today. So when you're harmonizing all 5 energies, everything seems to work. It's like you're in an energy vortex. It's working for you. So if we're looking for happiness in the wrong place, we're not going to find it. So let me ask you something. Why aren't you happy? I'm serious. Just think for a moment about that. You've probably achieved things, lots of things. And many of it you probably don't give yourself credit for. You might have a good education, a good career, maybe a family. And some of you are doing pretty well financially. You've checked the boxes. You've climbed the ladders. You've accumulated things. Now a lot of it's just junk. Can you give it away? Can you throw it away? Can you use it? So why, when you are alone with just you and your thoughts at 3 a.m, you still feel this symptom, what I call the big empty? Something's missing. But the answer is simpler than you think. It's going to make some of your thoughts uncomfortable thoughts. You've been looking for happiness in all the wrong places, possibly. And you know what? That's not really your fault. Don't blame yourself. Don't shame yourself or anyone else. You've been programmed from birth to search outside of yourself for something that can only be found within. So let's be blunt about this. But blunt, honest, but compassionate. Sometimes sharing a message with humor or gentleness allows that message to be better appreciated. And that is that it is your responsibility for happiness. It's not your spouse's, it's not your friends, it's not their responsibility. It's not your boss or workplace responsibility. It's not society's responsibility. It's not the internet, TikTok, influencers. It's yours. If something in your life is out of harmony, if something isn't working, if you're displeased about something, it's your job to fix it. No one else is going to do that for you. And waiting around for external circumstances to change is just another form of avoidance. Well, Gary, I'd be happy if I just had more money. Then why is it some of the happiest people in the world have the least amount of money? Well, but Gary, I just have too many responsibilities to be happy. Then why don't you stop and explain those responsibilities are no longer your responsibility? Well, then they're going to feel bad about me no longer taking care of them, and they're going to make me feel guilty about what I'm not doing. So you're allowing someone to use shame and blame to control you. Why would you allow that? So step 1, take ownership right now, today. Write it down. One thing in your life is about to change. Get back into harmony. Just one. Don't write that someone else will love you, someone else will accept you, you'll get the right job, you'll get the right car, you'll have the right person on your arm, and that'll change. So now you're happy. So changing situations will not change happiness. This is about your responsibility, not anyone else's. The box that became your prison. Now here's something most people never realize. You've been boxed in by your beliefs. In fact, most people's entire life is a theoretical, but frequently existential model of what they're expected to be, believe, do, eat, drink, obey, vote for, live, because someone else said it so. And you've been labeled with those boxes. You're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're an independent, you're an agnostic, you're an atheist, you're a Catholic, you're Jewish. You're from this socioeconomic class, so stay in it. Or you're this race, believe in it. You're a doctor, a teacher, a stay-at-home parent. And here's the problem. You become so identified with these labels that you can't think outside of them anymore. You've become the box. I see this all the time in my field. Someone comes in depressed, and what do they get? A diagnosis, a label, and then medication to make the label believable. Well, you're clearly a paranoid delusional schizophrenic, because that's what your symptoms tell us we should call you. I can't go further than that. I can't learn anything about your background and family. This is a quick 6-minute interview, and now you're in the system. Now we can pay for the medication, psychiatric medication, your hospitalization. We can Baker Act you and take you without your say-so into protective custody, because we believe with this label that we've given you, you may be a threat to society or yourself. Wow. Don't you want to know about how I took my mother's death? Had a hard time in my grieving process, kind of withdrew into myself, no longer was socially active because I wasn't happy about this. No, all these other thoughts about life we don't deal with. We used to with psychotherapy and psychoanalysis and talk therapy. We don't do that anymore. It's a pill, it's a potion, it's a magical medical elixir. And then medication to match the label. But did anyone ask you about your diet? No. Your relationships? No. Your sense of loneliness? No. Did anyone check if an underactive thyroid might be causing mood swings, hormonal imbalances? Did anyone sit down and really talk to them about what's happening in their life? Maybe their relationship is falling apart. Maybe they're drowning in debt. Maybe they hate their job but feel trapped. Their life is screaming at them that something needs to change, but instead of listening to that message, instead of making changes that are constructive and important, they just pop a pill to change how they feel about their miserable circumstances. And surprise, surprise, their lives don't get better. They just get numb, emotionally anesthetized. So bad things don't have the same impact. Life is full of bad moments, but it's also far more likely to have positive, inspirational moments. Loss of a pet, loss of a loved one, loss of a friendship, a relationship, a job. Loss of how your body used to be, its strength, its vitality. Now you've lost that because you let yourself go, but you've also lost clarity of meaning and purpose of each day that you once had. These are all legitimate reasons to feel bad. They're not diseases. They're not brain chemical imbalances. But here's the key. You don't have to sustain the bad moment. You can experience it, be honest with it, feel it fully, and then let it go and learn its lesson. You've let it go because you understand that your life, your essential self, is more important than any crisis that you're going to go through. The yelling, the screaming, the demeaning, the demanding, that'll pass, either through yourself or someone else. But then learn its lesson. What did that achieve? What did it achieve when you got in someone's face and we're yelling. What did it achieve when you allowed an immature childlike ego to dominate that moment? Did that solve anything? Did it bring you closer to reconciliation with what went wrong and how goes go right? Never. No, what it's showing is that you have a lot of unresolved conflict that you have not chosen to face. And now, in one moment, boom, it comes out. But that means that's who you actually are. Everything else is a pretense. Every crisis, every bad relationship, every painful moment is just weather passing through. Light storms, summer storms, nice breezes, tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis. We can survive it. Sometimes it's a drizzle. Sometimes it's torrential downpour that makes you think you won't survive. But the storm always ends. There's always a rainbow on the other side, even if you can't see it in the moment you're in. So let's take this second step. Let's identify the boxes by making a list of all the labels you've ever accepted for yourself. But Gary, I'm a professional. So what? Lots of downsides. Think of all the things you sacrificed. Quality time with your loved one. Quality time with your pets. Quality time with your friends. Has it been that long? It's been, no kidding, 2 years since we had dinner together? Wow. I'm going to pin you in, I promise. But you've said that 3 times in the last year. So do we have a friendship or not? I absolutely want you to be my friend. I just don't know where in the dickens to put you into my life because I got these commitments to keep me relevant, to keep me important, to keep income coming in. I get this extra money when I do these lectures over here for this professional group. You don't want me to sacrifice the quality of life. Hold on. You don't have a quality of life. No, you have a standard of living. And no matter what money you make, you've spent it already. You're in debt. So you're having to work just to keep up with the mounting bills. Why don't you just stop everyone and say, stop this spending? Now, I can't do that because then my wife, my husband won't want me. My kids will get angry with me and say I'm a bad parent. Because see, we're all spoiled rotten when we're professionals. We've sacrificed everything meaningful to have some artificial, superficial, transient importance in life. Because one day the phone's not going to ring, we're no longer invited any place, our standard of living doesn't matter to anyone, and we're forgotten. So we're working awful hard to ultimately be irrelevant, because someone's always taking your place. So why don't you look at what you would really love to do that would allow relevance? But I have political affiliations. I'm a determinist. No, you're not a determinist. You've made this movement that you're in, the identity crisis, you've made that more important in your life. Some of the most dysfunctional, emotionally imbalanced people in the world are the most passionate about their ideologies. So you've joined legions, just like Mao Zedong's hundreds of millions of young people holding up his little red book while they reprimanded or killed someone to show this is a person that's not willing to be as obedient as you are. Remember, your tooth comes in the little red book. And this sociopath over here, Mao, he's the one that we have to make into a living legend. You no longer count as long as you pay attention and obey, even if what we're asking you to obey is the destruction of society and your own life in the process, which actually happened. One of the most iconic figures ever put onto a poster in a student's room was Che Guevara. But if you look, he was a sociopathic killer, a racist. So what we do is our conditioning, our propagandizing, we filter out everything that we don't want to challenge this illusion that we live by. And it was F. Somerset Maugham, a great essayist in the 19th century, who said, never allow the public behind the curtain because they will be angry at you because it was the illusion that they loved, not the reality. So your socioeconomic status, your religious status, your relationship status all determine your behavior. So now, next to each one of these, write This describes what I do or believe, but it does not define who I am. Say it out loud. I'm more than my temporary beliefs. I'm more than my relationship. I'm more than my job. I'm more than my ideology. I'm more than who I voted for. I'm still the uniqueness of a person who can make better choices than what I've made. Maybe I'm smart enough to look. Because we're dealing with what I call the illusion industrial complex. You want to know what's really keeping you from happiness? Illusion. We live surrounded by illusions, and most people never question them. The entire commercial world, media, advertising, the marketplace, the free market, which is never free, is designed to sell you happiness. Oh, buy this car, wear these clothes. See how hip that person is? Look at George Clooney drinking his vodka. Look at P. Diddy, if you can. He was selling us what? Some kind of vodka also. Does that make us want to have it because someone that we see as a personality drinks it, eats it, smokes it? No, this is a fool's errand. I'm not going to wear their clothes because they do. I'm not going to use their product because that's not going to be what brings me to happiness. It's all a lie. Happiness isn't in a younger you, thinner you, richer you, more successful you. You wouldn't know that from the magazines and the ads, would you? Because they're selling you an illusion. All the people who are the influencers, you ever look up? It's like they came out of a factory where everything was just stamped. Silicone breast, silicone face, artificial nose. None of them look real, and yet they feel entitled. I want a free meal in this restaurant because I'm going to tell my 3 million viewers I had a good restaurant meal. Comp me. Wow. So what happens is from childhood through adulthood, we respond to the marketeers telling us, you need this. And we never think more than deeply about what we actually want. And then when life doesn't deliver what the advertisers promise, we panic. We get confused. We reach for medication or alcohol or marijuana or cocaine or methamphetamine. Or we go shopping to buy stuff we don't need with money we don't have. Or we eat food that is sickening and only can lead to a disease. Or whatever we use to fill that gnawing emptiness. But the emptiness persists because we're trying to fill an internal void with external things. It doesn't work. It can't work. Let me tell you something that might shock you. Happiness has nothing to do with more. It actually has to do with less. Less stress. Less confusion about our obligations and responsibilities. Less doubt about where we should live and the kind of relationship we should have. The messages we should learn, the less about avoiding the things that are painful because we don't want to deal with them. The very first rule of being happy is this: unclutter your life of everything that complicates it. Our lives are mercilessly complicated. We spend an inordinate amount of time and effort making our lives complicated. And for what? To avoid sitting still with ourselves? Would that be too much to face? To avoid facing what's really going on inside? And that brings me to step 3, the complication audit. Get a piece of paper and just make all of this make sense to you. So what you do is this: write it down or type it. Label the left column complications. In the right column, what I can change. In the left column, list everything and everyone that complicates your life. Be brutally honest. In the right column, write what you could learn, what you could eliminate, or change about each item. Then just pick one. Just one thing from the right column and do it this week. Get rid of what doesn't serve you. You know what's fascinating? When I counsel people on health, about 50% of the benefits they experience come from what they stop doing, not what they start doing. When people are in distress, when they stop poisoning themselves with negative thoughts and toxic relationships and unhealthy habits, they feel incredible. They feel fabulous. And here's a simple technique I teach. Take 3 fingers, place them on your elbow, and say to yourself, I no longer want these thoughts. Tap there for about 60 seconds. And again, I no longer want these negative thoughts. I no longer want these negative thoughts. It's called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's remarkably effective at clearing out the old programming. You can instruct your mind to go to where trauma is encoded and release it. Maybe something from childhood that you don't even consciously remember. You can tell your mind, go there, find it, open the doors, open the closets, get rid of the clutter, the debris, the emotional hoarding, and let it go. Tap your eyebrow, I should say, and say, I'm releasing all the effects of that trauma. At the side of the eye, tap it gently. Say, I'm releasing all the effects that trauma has had on me. I'm letting go of anything that disturbed me in the past. I'm erasing that program. I want to return to happiness and be in the present moment. And I've seen that it works. People do this and suddenly find the thoughts that plague them for years just dissolve. They disconnect the energy. Because everything you do has the capacity to change something that was there, you don't want, you didn't want it, and now it's gone. Another step, step 4, the EFT practice right now. Identify one negative thought pattern that keeps reoccurring. It might be, I'm not good enough, Gary. Or it might be, I'm always failing and nobody understands me. Place 3 fingers on your eyebrow and tap gently while saying, I no longer want this thought. Do this for 60 seconds twice a day for 1 week. See if there's a shift. So let's get over this idea that we have to go somewhere, do something, be someone in order to be happy, always pleasing others. That's the illusion talking. Taking responsibility for your energy, here and now, you have to deal with a question most people never ask themselves. What did I do to create this reaction in someone else? Because a lot of our unhappiness is blocked by our own words, our own deeds, our own attitudes towards others and towards ourselves. Most people don't stop and think about this. They just react. Someone says something that upsets them, and boom, this volcano erupts, blaming, screaming, pounding, making the other person wrong, rather than seeing what role they played in this. It takes what I call an evolved human, a big human, to stop and ask, there's something in myself that brought out this reaction. How could I have worked this in a way that my words were not weaponized or emotionalized? How could I have complicated this, and how could I have gone to a more peaceful way? Now, I'm not saying that you should blame yourself for everything. That's not what I'm saying. Some of us are professional blamers. We blame ourselves for things that aren't our fault. And you can always make someone treat you well. But you can feel good about your own level and style of communication. Be happy with how you handle words and emotions. And every time you adjust, every time you grow, you'll notice something remarkable. The people around you start to change too. Most of us don't have the inner discipline to pause before we react. Then you're acting like a 9-year-old petulant child brat. If you're a jet pilot or surgeon, reaction time is crucial. But for most of our lives, we could afford to be a little more mindful, a little more attentive, and less controlled by our unbridled emotions. Another step, step 5, the pause practice for the next week. When someone says or does something that triggers you, pause for 5 full breaths Just calmly inhale and exhale without anger or rage. Look at the person and just count backwards, and then ask yourself, how can I communicate this more peacefully? This simple pause can transform your relationships. Remember, we have two wolves. This is an old Native American concept that I think about often. It says within each of us live two great wolves. The dark wolf represents greed, insecurity, rage, anger, violence, selfishness. It is doing manipulation of everything, all the qualities we don't like about ourselves. The other wolf represents sensitivity, unconditional love, empathy, compassion, service, and humanity. And here's what most people don't understand. Both wolves will always be with you. The best you can be is always the worst you can be. You're not going to get rid of your dark side. Sorry to disappoint you, but that doesn't mean that you will engage it. You'll be aware of it and say, no, I'm not going there. The key is learning not to engage the dark side, not to feed it, because when you feed the wrong wolf, you get the dark side. And you feed it every time you argue unnecessarily, every time you manipulate someone, every time you lie, every time you try to control outcomes and control other people. When you stop feeding the dark wolf, it loses its power to make you do irrational, irresponsible, and inappropriate things. Let's add another. Step 6. Starve the dark wolf. 3 ways you regularly feed your dark self. Maybe gossiping, check it off, negative. Trying to control others, check it off. Hoarding and your emotions, and then holding grudges, passive aggressive, smiling, and then tearing a person apart. Choose one and commit to not feeding it for 7 days. Maybe just being honest for 7 days. When the urge arises, acknowledge it. Say, okay, that's my dark side, that's my dark wolf wanting to be fed. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to feed it today. Then we have the illusion. Let me tell you about the games we play with ourselves. The when-then game. When I achieve more, then I'll be happy. No, you won't. Or if I've gotten out of my own way, if I had different parents, if something had been different, if I've been given breaks I didn't get, if someone would open doors of opportunity, then I would be happy. No, you wouldn't. But Gary, if I had more money, if only I had a different spouse, if only I had a better job, if only people would see me as a worthwhile person, then I would be happy. No, these are all illusions. And until we address them, we'll never find true meaning and happiness. Look at Gandhi. He was not perfect by any means. Look at people throughout history who suffered. They didn't have to, they chose to make a point. Who had none of the worldly possessions we think we need to be happy, and yet they found happiness. You go to some of the most impoverished areas of the world, the Bushmen, the Kalahari Desert in Africa, and find people are genuinely happy. Why? Because they're not living with illusion. And what do? You surround our lives with nothing but illusion. Get rid of the illusions. Stop following people on Instagrams as if somehow they deserve to be followed. And you'll find yourself present with happiness. But you have to be honest about what is illusion and many of our expectations about others, about life, about what we need. Those too are illusions. Step 7. And this is important. Create an inventory. Write it down. Everything as far as you catch yourself thinking about, and say over the next 3 days, and say if only I had more money, If only my partner was different and more loving. If only I had a better job. At the end of 3 days, read your list and ask yourself, what can I be grateful for right now, exactly as things are? Write those down. And then that gives you the practice of gratitude. Because here's something that can transform your life immediately. Gratitude. Every day when you wake up, look for things to feel grateful for. The rising sun, the dew on the glass, the fact that you woke up at all. Love follows gratitude. So when you feel truly grateful for your life and the people in it and the opportunities you have, express it. When you write your blessings down and then you can appreciate what you have. It becomes so much easier to feel loving. You get a warm feeling when you notice all the wonderful things happening in your life, especially when you realize you made many of them happen. Remember, I said at the beginning, a lot of you don't give yourself credit for the things you've mastered in a good way. And that's really good reason to love yourself more. Not your ego, but actually love the whole spirit of yourself. Life is merely an accumulation of small, almost imperceptible events. Everything is cumulative, constructively or destructively. The bright side of your nature accumulates the positive. The dark side accumulates mistrust, betrayal, and anger. So if you spend your time thinking about things that make you jealous or envious, you're accumulating negativity day by day, thought by thought. Just like someone who eats an extra 100 calories a day and wonders, where did that weight come from at the end of the year? Remember, 3,500 calories equals a pound. Positive little things add up. Well, it was okay then. Well, it's not now because you didn't stop and think, what am I doing? When I walk down Broadway at night, I think about how grateful I am to be in a city with such culture, such diversity, such intellect, such passion, such fearless energy. But when on my way to my farm, looking up at the sky at night, with just me and nature, I feel connected to something eternal. So there are different realities we respond differently to. The universe allows me to feel that vibration, the eternal vibration, and I'm grateful for that moment. The culture allows me to feel in the moment something that I'm a spectator to that is so magnificent because it's a mastery of a person's life and energy, and they're sharing that with me. How grateful I am for that ballet, that opera, that dance. I'm grateful for everything, even the bad things that have happened in my life, because they gave me lessons I would not otherwise have survived or learned. They taught me what I need to know to strengthen myself. The key with negative experiences is being grateful for not having to repeat them. Learn their lessons. The repetition of our problems is what destroys us. Step 8, the morning gratitude practice before you get out of bed each morning. While you're still lying there, name 3 things you're grateful for. They can be as simple as, I'm grateful for this warm blanket. I'm grateful I woke up today. Do this every single morning for 30 days. If you want to supercharge it, write down these things in your gratitude journal. And then understand the pleasure trap. Let me be clear about one thing. Pleasure is not happiness. They're completely different energies. Pleasure is what gives you a sense of excitement, which is good in the moment, and a thrill, a rush, a sense of enthrallment. Pleasure is fine. It's part of the hedonic principle, providing it is not addictive and it is not destructive. Then it can be sustained. Happiness, however, is a sense of being where you can do anything and you're going to do nothing that is going to eliminate happiness. With pleasure, you have to be doing something to experience it. You get pleasure from buying a new car, going shopping, acquiring things, traveling, new cultures, new foods, new sensations. But that doesn't make you happy in the long run. It's just a distraction, just a moment, a remarkable moment or an unremarkable moment, pleasant or not so pleasant. Maybe a week of pleasure, a year of pleasure. Real happiness is contentment with your life overall. Things may go wrong, but you can accept that momentarily. You can find solutions instead of wallowing in pity. You can know that things happen for a reason and move on once you understand how it happened. We've been programmed to believe that happiness is connected to physical possessions, that success is measured by what we own and how we can stand above everyone else, the strutting peacock. But you can ask people who own the most possessions, and they'll all tell you, they have me counseling thousands of them, they'll tell you that it didn't really provide the harmony and energy they were seeking. Meanwhile, some of the poorest people on this planet have found the answer. It wasn't in matter. No, it was in community, in love, in harmony. Step 9, the pleasure versus happiness test over the next week. When you feel happy, ask yourself, is this pleasure or is this happiness? Will this feeling last beyond the moment? Or does it require me to keep doing, buying, achieving something? Start distinguishing between temporary pleasure and sustainable happiness. This awareness alone will transform your choices. Then we have the good boy or the good girl trap. How many times have you tried to tell people that I'm a good person and I'm a good friend? What that really means is I will never do or say anything that will make you think ill of me. I'm going to subvert my natural impulse to be my authentic self. The person who has to define themselves as good or not good usually doesn't trust themselves. They've mastered the art of illusion. When you master the illusion of your life, you become what everyone expects you to be, and you don't disappoint them. You maintain it with absolute perfection. You're dying on the inside because that persona you're exhibiting on the outside is not real. Real authenticity means knowing that, yes, sometimes you're good, sometimes less so. Sometimes a healthy dose of selfishness allows you to speak your truth and stand up for yourself, your children, your community. They're not going to like you for it, but at least you've told the truth. That's who you authentically are. When you see that the authentic self actually brings more gifts than the good girl, bad boy, when you can allow yourself to be your true expression of life, that's good. How many things would you have done differently if your authentic self was engaged instead of your conditioned self? How many responsibilities would you not have taken on? How many people would you have not allowed in your life? How much abuse would you have accepted? We learn at very early age to turn away from our authentic nature and look outside of ourselves if we're being praised for it. If I please my mother, my father, then they'll love me, and I need that. I'll be happy with that. So we grew up never questioning the original erroneous premise. We spend our lives pursuing something or someone from the outside that we can actually only give to ourselves. Leaving that authenticity results in emptiness. So we try to fill the emptiness with things, stuff, with achievements, with relationships, with responsibilities. But because we're trying to get them rather than be them, we never have them. The emptiness persists. And finally, number 10, practice saying no this week says something important. To one thing you would normally say yes to mainly out of obligation or people-pleasing. It doesn't have to be dramatic or with anger. It can just be subtle and honest. No, I'm not going to take that meeting. No, I need some time to myself. No, that doesn't work for me. Notice how it feels. Notice that the world doesn't end. Practice this regularly. Stop being overcommitted and undercommitted. Here's a question worth asking. Are you overcommitted or undercommitted to your own life? If you're overcommitted, you don't live with balance. Too many responsibilities, too many people, too many things, too little time. Always out of balance, never enough time for your essential self. You live out of balance, emotionally hyper. And when you're not finding fulfillment, you crash into depression. Or you're undercommitted. You lack a sense of who you are, of meaning and purpose. So you take your meaning from your job or your cause, or you distract yourself with movies, television, endless scrolling. When you're depressed, lethargic, agitated, having difficulty sleeping and eating these wrong foods, what it means is that it's a sign that you're out of balance physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and socially. Anyone dealing with depression needs to look at the basics: healthy diet, supplements like omega-3 fatty acids, exercise, talk therapy. Just about anybody can take 5 or 10 minutes to walk around their neighborhood. That's the beginning. The more movement you bring into your life, the more life you bring in to yourself. So balance the assessment and draw a line down the middle of the page. On the left, list everything you've committed to, like work, family, obligations, social commitments, activities. On the right, list for yourself, what's good for me? Exercise, meditation, hobbies, rest, friendships, relationships, travel, learning, growing. Now you have to balance the two. Don't be overcommitted, don't be undercommitted. And finally, the antidote to apathy. Without purpose, we resign ourselves to apathy. Part of happiness is having a constructive, positive purpose in our lives. Think about what your life could mean to yourself and others if you kept focused on meaningful purpose. It's not about money or education or social standing or special talents. It's about meaningfulness of purpose. If you know you're a good person, if you know you're happy, then just be happy and good. And living in balance means you're not going to imbalance anyone else. You're not going to adversely affect other human beings. That's meaningful. Research shows that people who see themselves as part of a whole, who try to improve that whole, end up being happier than people who just try to accumulate for themselves. When you look at what makes a significant life, the questions are retrospective. Did you make a difference? Did you help other people? Were you able to love unconditionally? Is the world better because you were alive and part of it? Think if everyone made conscious choices. If you don't need something, don't buy it. Don't pollute the world more than what it is. That's being conscious. That's being mindful. When you're mindful and conscious of every choice you make, the world becomes a better place. So define your purpose. Complete that sentence. Don't overthink something. It doesn't have to be grandiose, your life. It could be to raise a kind of a child that has a chance of living in balance in a good world. It can be all the things you've done that you weren't asked to, you chose to. So there's a great value to connection, something crucial. You become like the people you surround yourself with. So be conscious of negative, toxic, depressed people, and you don't want to share that. So surround yourself with loving, joyful, growth-oriented people. Develop those qualities. Having the courage to say no to any energy that doesn't honor who you are, then you don't become a part of that. When you intuitively see that an energy isn't balanced, it's not for you to engage it or to change it. There are more than enough people in this world, an abundance, who can share positive energy with you. There's no law that says you must befriend everyone or accept everyone into your inner circle. Research shows that the single greatest risk factor for death and disease is not smoking or lack of exercise. It's lack of a supportive network. People with rich social connections live longer, healthier lives. People who are happily married or in good relationships live longer. People with strong community connections and friendships live longer and healthier lives. In the Cherokee tradition, they're concentric circles, body, mind, and spirit at the center, then family, then community, and finally, the Creator surrounding it all. We're meant to be connected to ourselves, to family and community, to something larger than ourselves. So those are just some suggestions. of what we can do to measure our inner value, to see it, to find it, and to be happy with it. The answer to happiness is not out there. As I said at the beginning of this, it's in you. And that's our final truth for today, and it's universal truth. So you can be happy no matter what other circumstances you're faced with. We just think we can't, because so few other people are. I'm Gary Null. Thank you for watching this, and if you found any value in it, please share this with other people, because we all deserve some help and interconnectivity. I'll be back for another one, and I listen to what people ask. A lot of people ask about happiness in the emails. And by the way, you can email me at radio@GaryNull.com. That goes to my main office, goes to Sharon, who's my archivist for the last 35 years. And then she says, Gary, an awful lot of people are asking you to do this on just being authentic and honest. So I did. About love, and I did. About trust, and I did. So you keep your issues coming, and I'll keep bringing back these extemporaneous essays to share with you. I always post this on GaryNull.com under new articles. You can listen to my radio show every day, Monday to Friday, Eastern Standard Time at noon to 1 on prn.live. prn.live. If you miss it, go to the archives. Have a nice day.